Victorians are terrified and afraid as this bushfire has broken into 180 different fires in the first 12 hours with the help from the 110 kilometers per hour wind gusts. This managed to spread the inferno throughout the states of Victoria and South Australia. The raging blazes have managed to cover an approximate area of 200,000 hectares of bushland in South Australia and 500,000 hectares in Victoria. The areas that were affected the most were located in the Danam ranges in Victoria and Adelaide Hills in South Australia. The fire is predicted to die around 2 p.m. tomorrow. Over 130,000 firefighters and volunteers are bravely helping to battle the blaze. Firefighters are devastated to find out that there were 75 casualties, including 14 being CFA and 3 being CFS volunteer firefighters. The estimated damage total is set to skyrocket to over $500 million. We will now go to Issac, Caruanna for a live report in Belgrave Heights in Victoria, where the fire has just recently passed.
Thank you, Jerome. I'm here in Belgrave Heights with one of the victims of the Ash Wednesday bushfires, Leon Augustine. Leon stayed back trying to defend his home, but the blaze overwhelmed him and he had to make a last-minute escape, while his house got destroyed by the bushfires. Leon, how did you manage to escape the blazes, and what was your experience in getting out of the burning house?
Well, before the fire, I thought that I had prepared well. At the start of the fire season, I did things to help ensure the safety of my house. I mowed the lawn. I cleared away dead branches and leaves. I cleaned out my gutters. I made sure the pool could be used as a main water supply if the actual main water supply was malfunctioning. I was sure these things would help me get through the fire. As well as that, I dressed in clothing that protected me from the heat, from the fires, and hosed down the garden and the house just before the fire reached my house. I packed my belongings and made sure the car was facing towards and ready to go if I needed. But I was sure I would not need it. The fire was much more fierce and scary when you are facing it alone. It makes you lose your cool and makes you panicked. The fire just overwhelmed me. Too many embers fell over the house and started many small fires inside and outside of the house until it was a burning wreck. By the time I realized everyone was around me had evacuated, I could barely see through the flames, and I had to run to get my belongings and carried them to my car and drove like crazy for hours. The fires were everywhere. It was nerve-wracking to drive through fires. It gave me too much time to think about my house and what will happen when I go back. I did not think I would make it. It was a hard ordeal. I was scared, stiff most of the time. As an experience, it taught me never to underestimate fires.
Droughts, a major problem in Australia. The farmers feel it and eventually you will feel it. Whether in your pocket or through other problems, drought disrupt cropping programs, reduce breeding stock, and finally threaten Australia's economy and well-being. Today, we are looking at a brand new segment of Absidy News, investigating droughts. The drought that we will be investigating today is the Most States drought. Most States was a major drought in Australia. Many people remember because of the problem it caused. But to continue the story, I will hand it over to our reporter Issac Caruanna.
The Most States drought. One of the most serious droughts ever recorded in Australia. It affected 5 million people all over Australia and occurred from 1956 to 1967. One of the longest droughts ever recorded in Australia. It went for 11 years straight and caused many tight water restrictions and problems in society. The Most States drought in Australia occurred, as the name indicates, in most states. What was the Most States drought caused by, you ask? It was caused by the famous El Nino, the sudden change of atmospheric temperature and ocean circulations. Some locals remember the drought and what it did to them. I'm going to talk to one of the locals that were around at the time of the drought. His name is Ray James. He was one of the local farmers that had to know his numbers.
Well, at the time of the drought, it was very tough and the government placed plenty of water restrictions and increased water bills to put more value on the water and encouraged people not to waste water. The drought affected farmers especially. It caused 40 million livestock to die and over nearly $500 million decrease in farmer income. The consequences of the drought were in plain sight for everyone to look. There was a huge 40% drop of wheat harvest.
So Ray, what strategies do you think the Australian government should undertake to help the situation of drought in Australia today?
Well, one thing that is promising to my mind was an idea promoted by Tim Flannery, a leading environmentalist. He said that forcing some of the rivers inland, it will irrigate inland areas and help droughts as a whole.
There we have it, a report at the time of the drought. Back to Jerome Danam in ABC News Studios.
That's it for today. Join us next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Thank you and enjoy